G'day there guys, Markee here, back at it again with another episode of r/EntitledParents. Now if you love today's content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, a like on the video, and tell me what you think of all these entitled parents. Posted by user The Booksmith, titled, My Entitled Father Nearly Burns Down the House. So normally I try to keep these light-hearted, but this only just happened last night, and because of it, I have gotten very little sleep, so I may or may not get into more of a rant in some places. Apologies. For context, my father is a dialysis patient with double kidney failure and can barely see due to his diabetes, and he barely listens to the doctor. He is also one of the most entitled people I know. For proof of this, I have 2 more stories on this sub where he demands I give one of my $300 bikes to him and the other where we go shopping and my father doesn't understand what closing means. So, flashback to 3 AM. I am asleep in my room and suddenly my cat comes sprinting into the room and knocks a crap ton of things over, causing me to wake up. Immediately I smell smoke and am very confused, but don't yet panic. Unsurprisingly, my father has burnt food at 3 AM before, so I just assume that's what's happened and that he took care of it. Not this time apparently, because I sit up and immediately the smoke in the house is obvious. While it isn't so thick you can't see it, it's definitely thick enough to know something is very, very wrong. I rush out into the kitchen, and sure enough I see a saucepot billowing smoke like a fudging smokestack. I immediately shut off the burner and turn on the stove fan. Looking into the kitchen and living room, which are right next to each other, is something I can only describe as looking through the cliché smoke haze in a stoner house multiplied by 5. I immediately wake my father up by yelling about how he left a fudging pan on the burner, then I start opening windows. All of them were shut since it was below 60 where I live. My father immediately starts cursing, and when I ask him if he's going to help me air out the house, he says that he doesn't feel well and that I need to do it myself. He then gets up to go take a 20-minute crap in the bathroom, which meant I was down 1 exhaust fan. This fudging idiot almost burns down the house, then immediately refuses to help. My conversation with my dad was enough to wake my mother, and she runs out of her room panicking because of the smoke in the air. I explain the situation, and she starts to yell at my father, who claims it wasn't his fault because he had meant to come back to the soup, he just fell asleep by accident. As these two were having an argument, I start busting out our window fans, turning them to face outwards to get all of the smoke out of the house. My mum eventually starts to help, and all the arguing had awoken my brother, who was asleep and didn't notice the smoke, since his door was shut with the massive window in there wide open. He loves sleeping in the cold. And at this point, we're all ticked, and my brother works first shift, so he gets to miss out on an hour of sleep basically. While this is going on, my father is still in the bathroom, refusing to help anyone because he is a total piece of crap, and the 5 cats are freaking the hell out. So we're trying to get all the windows open and fans in them, while cats are sprinting between potential exits, all while my father gets to hide from his mistakes. We get all the fans blowing, and me and my mum sit down in the living room to awake, and both with headaches from the smoke. Now, if at this point in the story you were wondering why no smoke detectors went off, potentially saving us from having to do all this, well then don't worry, my dipcrap father has the answer. You see, we were wondering the same thing. How smoke detectors are wired into the house's electrical with a battery backup in case of power outage, so there is no way that they shouldn't have been working. So I twist one off the wall and notice the detector has been switched off. Assuming this was the case for both, my mother and I go back and forth discussing why they were shut off. Then, my father comes out and says in a voice so matter-of-fact that it was almost like he just wasn't responsible for nearly burning down our house less than 30 minutes ago, I actually shut them off last time I made steak in the skillet because the smoke kept causing them to go off. So this dumb motherfricker actually shut off the smoke detectors and didn't turn them back on when he was done. This dumb motherfricker nearly started a fire in a trailer. I don't know what you know about trailers, but they are built out of super flammable and cheap materials. So a fire in a trailer is like lighting a fudging firecracker. You see, usually what my dad does is at least funny in hindsight, but he literally almost fudging kills us, if not from fire risk, then from the potential smoke inhalation, and literally sits there like a fudging child doing nothing. Honestly, I'm still ticked because I couldn't sleep for hours, and the house still smells like smoke. God damn it. Anyways, thanks for reading. Quick edit. No, putting my father in a home isn't an option. We don't have the money to, and he isn't mentally unstable, so there is no forcing him. My mother won't kick him out because she feels bad because of his health. Posted by user Nithes124. Titled, My Dad's Girlfriend Thinks She Can Tell Me What to Do. I know the title makes me seem like the entitled one, but hear me out. My dad's girlfriend of about 8 months now got really mad at me this morning because I said that I didn't want to mow the lawn today. Granted, it isn't hard work, but I have a lot of other things I have to do today. I have to go to my neighbor's and help her with her sprinklers because she physically can't do it herself because of her age and her physical problems. I have to help my girlfriend's dad move a ton of stuff to storage, and I also have to go into work today because one of my friends called off sick, and I told him I'd cover for him. I told her I'd just do it tomorrow because it's easy work, and she lost her mind, saying how I have to do what she says. I tell her that if she wants it done so badly, that her son can do it. He's 15 and does nothing around the house besides making messes that I have to clean. She gets even more mad and starts yelling at me that I need to give her my phone, my iPad, my Switch, and every other electronic that I own. I tell her to eat crap. I didn't like that I did, but she was peeing me off, and I want to go let my chickens out like I usually do every morning. Can someone tell me if I was in the wrong for saying that I'll just do it tomorrow, or is she the crazy one? Edit 1. So, I talked to her a little bit ago, and I told her flat out that if things don't change in the house, that I will talk to my dad about charging you rent. I told her that I wasn't okay with how she was trying to push me around, and that if it continued, I would stop doing anything she needs. She tried to talk over me a few times, but I raised my voice the way a teacher would get everyone's attention, and it shut her up real quick. I think we came to an agreement, but just in case, I had a voice recording of the whole conversation that I had with her. So, if I have to, I will show it to my dad and let him decide. Posted by user California Old Timer. Titled, Me and my babies need to use your pool. I don't want them swimming at the community center with the N. People have been asking me for stories, so here's one from when I was younger. This was on Choosing Beggars, but they said to put it here instead. Okay, backstory. This happened in 1965, just for some clarification. I was 26 then, 81 now. I had a pool party yesterday, and thought about this run-in that I had. So, in my old neighborhood, my wife and I rented a home in a community of around 23 houses. Out of these 23 homes, we were 1 out of 7 with a pool, because the previous owner ordered a pool when he had the house built. Adding a pool was around a $2,000 option, so many people didn't get it. Because I had a pool, a lot of people would try to come over to swim. Now, I was quite generous with my pool if people called first. Now, understandably, some weekends I wanted some peace and quiet. A new family had moved in to the left of me, and they heard that I was generous with my pool. So the mum and her 3 kids just came over in swimsuits and asked to use my pool. I said that I was tired and next weekend they could swim, just not right now. I told her that she and her kid could go to the community center. She and her kids could have gotten in for around 25 cents at that time. She said, "Oh, come on, I don't want to drive all that way. 3 miles. Plus, I don't want my babies in that water with all those man people." I'm sorry, I just got off a 60-hour work week, and I don't want to have people over, sorry. Due to her racist attitude, I didn't want her in my home, so I was very dismissive of her using my pool. "Oh, come on, my babies are hot and need to cool off. Just let us swim for an hour and we'll leave. I don't want them in that nasty pool. Just be a good neighbor." "No, I'm sorry." She then whispers something to her kids, and then they proceed to beg to use my pool. I just closed the door on her. A few hours later, I hear my dog barking and people screaming. I look out the window, and the mum and her kids hopped my fence to gain access to my pool, and they were being cornered by my dog Cupcake. Cupcake was a big pit bull, but she was a sweetie, always defended me and my property. I take the family out of my yard, and tell them if they came over to my property again, I would call the police. She also did try to gain access to the other neighbors' pools, and was promptly banned from there as well. Posted by user XXImore74LXX, titled, "Bought a new Nintendo Switch to reward myself. Entitled mother wanted me to give it to her since she doesn't buy stuff for her entitled kid." This happened about a month ago, and I finally decided to write about it on Reddit. I work in a Starbucks coffee shop located in a mall where Karens are known to swarm. I've heard a few stories about them arguing about their coffee not being done properly, but I didn't think that I would experience an encounter with one myself. Unfortunately, I did. After getting paid minimum wage brewing coffee for 3 months, I finally saved enough money to buy myself a Nintendo Switch, which the gaming store in the mall sold for around $500. My first mistake was buying it on a Saturday, which was the day the entitled parents usually bring their kids to the mall. At that time, I didn't really think much about it, as the chances of actually having an episode was low. So, on that day, after I was done with my shift, I went to the store and paid for a Switch, along with a few games like Smash Bros. And Breath of the Wild. While the store employee was scanning my card, I glanced at my surroundings in order to avoid having awkward eye contact with the employee, and outside, I saw entitled mother, 40-ish, and entitled kid, 10-ish. They looked pretty normal, so I didn't think too much about them. When I took the paper bag and carried it out of the store, entitled kid somehow noticed that I was carrying a Nintendo Switch. Maybe he already knew while I was in the store, and began to beg entitled mother for one. I knew that it was a normal reaction for a child, so I ignored him and continued walking to the exit of the mall. Suddenly, entitled mother shrieked loud as hell and scared the crap out of me, and they said, "I recognize you. You're the guy at Starbucks." Since I obviously didn't know who the entitled mother is, I just replied with, "Yeah, I work there. Listen, my son really wants that Nintendo Switch. It's his birthday tomorrow, and since you're not going to play with it anyway, you should just give it to me." From entitled kid's reaction, I could obviously tell that she was lying, and so I said, "Well, it's only $500. You could buy one yourself." Obviously, replying was a mistake. I should have just walked away. Now, entitled mother was mad. She shouted, "You wouldn't have time to play it anyways. You have a job. My son doesn't have any toys at home to play with, so you better give him the Switch." I was just shocked at how she demanded me to just give away a $500 console. It was her fault that she didn't buy entitled kid toys, so she shouldn't go around asking for free crap. I had a feeling that this wasn't the first time that entitled mother had done this. Entitled kid was practically begging entitled mother to stop with this crap. Luckily, before the situation escalated, the store employee that helped me with the purchase earlier saw the whole thing and offered entitled kid a second-hand PSP, probably to not only calm entitled mother down, but also maybe because he felt sorry that entitled kid had to deal with this crap every day and gave him some form of entertainment. I thanked the store employee for helping me with the situation, and even giving him a $10 tip as a way of showing my appreciation. Even though entitled kid was happy as hell about his new PSP, entitled mother was giving me a stone-cold glance as I walked away from her. Until now, I'm still afraid that I'll have another episode with her, because she knows that I work at Starbucks, but I can only hope for the best. Edit: a lot of people have been saying this, and I've checked. $500 included the games as well. It was the total cost of all the things I bought. I was just stupid and forgot that I've bought the games too. Edit 2. I know the kid isn't entitled. I even said he reacted like a normal kid, but I didn't know what to call him, so I just went with EK. Posted by user Brudder66, titled, "Entitled mother thinks I should pay her kid for work he didn't do." It's been a while since I posted. This happened about a couple of months ago. First off, I am disabled. I'm a one-legged amputee and had a stroke a couple of years ago. I've recovered mostly from the stroke. Some paralysis in my left arm still, but I can still do most things I did before. I also live alone and am pretty independent. One thing I can't do is mow my yard. I live on a very big lot, and the backyard is big enough for a couple more houses to be there, and the front and side are almost as big. I do have a riding mower, but I have a tendency to fall off when I use it. One leg and a poor sense of balance, not a great combination. A neighbor's teenage son would mow it for me once every week for $50. He graduated and went into the military, so had to find someone new this year. I have a friend who will mow for me for free, but I don't like to impose on him, and I figure most teenagers could use an extra $50. Last year, some new neighbors moved in, consisting of a mother in her early 40s and her 2 teenage sons. I didn't know about the boy's father, but she apparently had a number of boyfriends who were always coming over and staying overnight. The older son, about 17, was always outside working on an old car that he had. I got to talking to him, and he said that he was trying to get it running, but couldn't afford all the parts he needs. So, I offered him the same deal I had with the other kid. I'd pay $50 a week for the kid to use my riding mower to mow the yard once a week. He jumped at it. The first couple of weeks went pretty good. I'd go ahead and pay him in advance, and then he mowed the yard. That way, if I had to leave or was napping, he didn't have to wait for his money. The third week he came, he asked if he could use my mower on his yard. His yard is tiny compared to mine. My backyard is almost twice the size of his front yard and back together. I told him to go ahead. I was going to a friend's house and would be back later, and paid him. I came back that evening, but it was too dark to really see the yard. The next day, I saw that my yards had not been mowed. I rolled over to his house with its newly trimmed yard and knocked. His mother answered. Now, I've never seen his mother wearing anything but an old terry cloth robe and house shoes. She apparently doesn't work, or really do much of anything. I asked for the kid, and she said that he'd gone somewhere with friends. I thought that was strange with everything going on. Not surprising though. I've never seen anyone at that house wearing a mask. I wear one anytime I leave the house. Anyway, I didn't see him that day, so my yard didn't get mowed. A couple days later it rained for a bit, so it was getting pretty tall. A few days later he came over, wanting to mow. He asked about the pay, and I told him he had never mowed it last week, so I'm not paying him this week. He made some comment about rain, and then about it being so high this time. I told him if he had mowed when he was supposed to, it wouldn't be so tall. He had already been paid for work he didn't do, and I wasn't going to pay him again. As he walked away, I heard him say, "A-hole." Shortly after this, his mum came over in her bathrobe and house shoes. I answered the door, and this was the conversation. "You need to pay my son. I paid him last week for something he didn't do. I'm not paying him again. But it rained last week. He couldn't mow. You can't blame him for the weather." It didn't rain until 2 days after he was supposed to mow. He didn't have any trouble mowing your yard. My yard's not that big. Yours is huge. Which is why I have a riding mower. Well, just pay him and he'll mow it. He still hasn't mowed it after the last time I paid him. Well, I won't let him mow it unless you pay him. Then what will you do? I have a friend who will mow it for free. I was really just helping your son out. You're just a cripple. You don't have friends. Yeah, I'm a cripple, but I guarantee I have more friends than some lazy, bloated hoe who spreads her legs for any guy she sees. Yeah, that really got her ticked. You'll be sorry. I know people who will kick your sorry ass. You'll be sorry you spoke to me like that. Thank you. That definitely was loud enough for the microphone to pick up. Now, turn and smile for the camera. I pointed to the security camera mounted on the eave of my house, pointed at the front door. I'm sure the police will enjoy hearing that you just threatened me. You know it's a felony to threaten a vulnerable person? Probably not, but it sounded good. She stuck her hand up in front of her face and took off back to her own house. I heard the door slam. Didn't see her for the rest of the day. My friend came and mowed the next day. I saw the kid out by his car watching. That night, he came over and apologized. We had a long talk, and honestly, he's not a bad kid. He's had a tough life. His father left when he was little, and his half-brother, who's 14, lives with his own father and only comes to stay occasionally. His mother doesn't even try to do anything but sleep and go to bars at night and bring home whatever guy is desperate enough to be with her. She takes any money that he gets. That's why he wanted to get paid. She insisted that he give her money. He has been trying to get money for the car parts, but she always takes his money. So I offered, instead of paying him in cash, I could just buy him the parts he needed. He loved the idea, and by mowing before noon, when she was still asleep, she wouldn't even know that he was mowing for me. He wants to move out, but has nowhere to go. I found out that he turns 18 in a couple of months, and I've told him he could stay with me then, as long as he obeyed the rules of my house. He's worried about what his mum might do, but I told him she can't do anything once he's 18. Besides, she tends to hide her face and go inside whenever she sees me. He told me she's scared that I might take the video to the police, and she's already been in trouble with the law. Besides, I happen to know the owners of that house is selling it, and she'll have to move soon anyway. Funniest part of the story is that the camera doesn't even work. The previous owner put it up and didn't take it with them. I just never took it down, and have never even messed with it. Posted by user Commotionable, titled, Entitled Parent Claims I Cut Her Off to Get My Oil Change First. Hey Reddit, so this happened last Saturday and I thought I would share. So I have a 2019 Kia Optima and her name is Frosty. Well, I had reached the mileage that makes her due for an oil change. So like the good car she is, she notifies me that she needs service. I schedule an appointment over the phone with the dealership for an oil change on Thursday. I pull up Thursday, and somehow my appointment doesn't exist. I figure it's whatever, let's do Friday. I pull up Friday, and they have a 2-hour delay. Apparently, despite the current situation in the world, people still want to drive and travel everywhere. Irritated, I ask for one of the very first appointments on Saturday morning. I'm now over the mileage. While I know it's not bad, I work Postmates and Grubhub on the side, so I'm worried of having an accident and with somebody's food in my car. Saturday morning, 8 a.m. I'm not a morning person, and when it's my day off, I like to sleep in and then wake up and play video games. But nope, I'm dressed and ready to sit in a waiting room while my car gets serviced. I grab my keys, phone, mask, and my switch and head for the dealership. I took a back road that connected to the main road the dealership was on to avoid traffic lights. While driving down the road, there was a silver minivan slowly tugging along. I get that we're in a residential area, but the van was doing like 10 in a 35. Once the opportunity arose, I passed them, and within a few minutes, I was pulling up to the service center. As I'm getting out of my car, putting on my mask, and confirming my 8:30 a.m. appointment, I was early by like 10 minutes. I handed the mechanic my keys. I reached in the back and grabbed my switch case and made my way to the waiting room. As I go to pull the handle, I hear a, "Hey, you!" Turning to look because I'm nosy AF, I notice a middle-aged woman, heavy set, messy mummy bun, and fitted for yoga. She was looking at me, face scrunched up like she was inhaling lemon juice. Yes? You need to move your car. I was in front of you and you passed me. As she was talking, I just walked into the waiting room. I took a seat and pulled out my switch. She opened the door with a huff. Probably mad I just walked off. You need to move your car. Me, not looking up from my screen, say, please leave me alone. I'm not in the mood. I have an appointment and I'm tired. Please sit down and wait like everybody else. Just as she was about to yell at me some more, a little human struggling to open the door called out to her and says, Mom? She helped him open the door, then directed her attention back to me. Look, I have somewhere to be and I really need my car looked at. Can't you just go somewhere else? Or better yet, don't you know people who work on cars? I raised my brow and looked at her. Whatever you were insinuating, I'm gonna ignore it. So please leave me alone. Mind you, this was my second please. "Ooh, a Switch, can I play?" "Sorry buddy, it's kind of expensive and I kinda just wanna chill. But they have free arcade games you can play over there." I point to the showroom where the nice new lineup sits, and along the wall there are 3 arcade cabinets with chairs, all free to play. "Why can't he play your Switch? He's really good with his games at home. I'm sure nothing bad will happen." "I said no," I say sternly to the lady. The gears in the kid's head had already shifted to the arcade games, and he was already munching ghosts in Pac-Man without a care in the world. "Mommy, come watch me." "In a minute, dear." And the entitled parent looks at me. "Now look, it's your fault that we're going to have to sit here for longer, and he is going to get bored of those games eventually. Just let him play." "Look, if your appointment is before mine, they will do yours first. Just chill." "I didn't have time to set an appointment." "Tragic." Shrugging as I lean into the chair and booting up Animal Crossing. She scoffed, but after realizing she wasn't going to win, she plopped into a chair, never going to watch her offspring play some Pac-Man. About 30 minutes later, they were done with Frosty, and I was called to get the paperwork and what have you. The best part was, before getting my keys, I got to listen to another service rep tell her it was going to be a 2-hour wait time as they were fully booked for the day, and all of their appointments were showing up. I know it's not that interesting, but meeting these people in the wild makes me lose whatever little faith I had in humanity. Alright guys, that's where I'm going to end today's video. I really do hope you enjoyed it, and maybe even learned something that you didn't know before. If you haven't already, please do feel free to click that like button, as it really does help me in the YouTube algorithm. And if you haven't already and you love today's video, please feel free to subscribe. I would love it a lot. Also, big shout out to all my Patreon members and channel subscribers. You guys are all up on the screen right now. I love you. I love your faces. Also, I love seeing you guys all chatting down below in the comments. It brightens my day to see the stories that you guys share and just the kind words you guys always have for my videos, as well as everyone else in the videos. I love you too. But honestly, your ongoing support means the world to me, and I just love it so much that you guys are able to support a career for myself that I invest so much time into. And you guys honestly motivate me to work harder each and every day to put more love into the videos for you guys. If you guys have watched this far in the video and you haven't already subscribed on Patreon or become a channel member, that's cool, you don't have to, but there are links down below. You can donate any amount of money, pledge that any month, cancel whenever. I'm completely cool with it. It's just there for you to support me if you'd like to go the extra mile. And I'll go the extra mile for you guys by putting out new amazing content every single day. With that said guys, I really hope you have a good day, night, sleep, bath, time at work, whatever you're up to today. This has been Markee. I'll see you in the next amazing video. Bye.